For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thanks so much for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com, but mainly on your favorite podcast app, and I probably couldn't even name 3 of them, but you found us, and that's what matters. And it is Labor Day weekend. Welcome to it, everybody. I mean, I gotta say, holidays for the past however many months, have they really been holidays, or have the months been holidays? Let's think about this for a second, right? When you're go with work and school, you long for the weekend, you long for a holiday. Usually it's that first one in May, right? That is the kickoff to the summer, and then you're golden at that point, right? Then you're counting down the days to the summer holidays, and this is usually the official end of summer. But then you're sort of like, okay, well, I didn't really get to the beach much anyway, so did summer happen? But it could also be the complete opposite, right? It could be just that, hey, I haven't had to go to work. And so, we found that this summer when it came to Canada Day, obviously I'm back in Canada, my home country, during the shutdowns. But yeah, I mean, Canada Day festivities didn't really happen. 4th of July for our American friends, was sort of right? My birthday was in August. I still got together with my family, but not that I do much for my birthday anyway, but you know what I mean. Same thing like with Easter and, my parents' anniversary. We actually have quite a few birthdays in the summer in our family, so, it just kind of wasn't the same. And so when it comes to Labor Day, you're sort of like, well, it's a holiday weekend, and okay, I guess. And yeah, as gradually people are getting back to work, and I know the countdown is on for school, right? A lot of American schools are already in session. Kids are getting the corona, and then in my home city of Winnipeg, I believe it's starting after this weekend. So it's okay. So I think maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, because for me, who I haven't stopped working the entire corona thing, so for me, it's not a big deal, but I guess just weekends don't seem like weekends is sort of my point. And typically in the radio business, you actually you look to a holiday weekend as nobody's listening, so I couldn't give an F about what happens on the show. That's but yeah, I've almost sort of felt that way every day, because people weren't tuning in at work. We didn't have, it's like, oh, is radio still on the air? But podcasts will never go away. That's where the money's at, everybody. So anyway, happy Labor Day weekend. That 3-minute rant was just sort of laughing about summer's over, but did it happen? Does it matter? Anyway, coming up though, I am also going to talk about getting older, because my birthday, as I mentioned, was in the summer, and I don't want to say it was an epiphany of sorts, but certainly, I think it's just coincidental timing, I decided to make a bunch of life changes. Slight little changes to improve my overall health. Again, has nothing to do with, you're getting closer to 40, but I just kind of wanted to play around and experiment. That's what coronavirus shutdowns do, right? Some people picked up a new hobby, some people picked up bad hobbies, you maybe got a new skill, whatever it is. I was like, hey, let me fuck with my body for a little while and see what I come up with. So I'll tell you about that coming up. Now also, speaking of bodies morphing over time, my dogs, again, they do the darndest things, as they say, right? Dogs do the darndest things. And I've got a couple stories about my golden retriever who when you look at their face, you kind of just go, you are so cute. Like, you can't do anything wrong. I can't be mad at you. Well, I felt sorry for him based on a couple of things that happened. And he had some unfortunate incidents you kind of laugh about, but then you feel bad. And then you laugh about him when he heals. There you go. Is that a good tease for it? Those are some of the stories coming up. It's all on the Scribble, and it starts right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. You gotta love how dogs can just chill out, relax, and then out of nowhere, you kind of take a deep breath and you're like, you little bastard, you let one rip in the corner of the room. And of course, I can't go anywhere right now, right? I've got to sit here and do this show. Anyway, as we get older, our bodies change. Right, I remember back in the day being able to drink. I'm talking alcohol. Drink, be unfazed by it, keep going. And quite honestly, yes, when I was 17 years old, I would have almost an entire bottle of vodka. I would, yeah. It was just over, 4 or 5 hours, 6 hours, basically a Saturday night out at the lake. And now my tolerance for it, I'm not kidding you. 1 glass of wine, maybe 2 glasses of wine. But it's strange how some days your body can tolerate it and some days it can't. And it's not even a matter of, did I have food beforehand, blah, blah, blah. Like, there's just times where even after a couple sips, I'm kind of like, all right, you know what, I'm kind of done. And then there's other times when you're just like, I need a few drinks, I'm good to go. And so after I turned 38, not too long ago, right, we had my birthday on this show, I started to change things about my life. And it certainly wasn't anything about getting older and, I'm getting closer to 40. Honestly, that doesn't bother me. I don't have aches and pains. I don't feel 38. I don't look 38. I lead a relatively healthy lifestyle. I've talked about it on the show that my husband is a Brazilian fitness model. So when it comes to, junk food and stuff like that, we just don't really even have that in the house. And I'm a water drinker. I've never had a sip of coffee in my life. I've never even physically touched a cigarette. So to say, oh, well, did you smoke? I've never even touched one. Not touched as in like smoked, just never even touched one with my hand. And so now there are things though, like, I walk the dogs quite regularly in the summer. We have a treadmill, so when it's, it's rainy, or if I, didn't get a walk in, for 2 days in a row or something, I have one of those apps that now, I do a little workout. Compared to the 2-hour workout that somebody else in the house is doing, I'm certainly falling short of, keeping up. We're not on equal levels when it comes to that. Now, that's also his dedication. It's his career and it's his life. For me, it's just, I stay active. There we go, right? I'm not lounging on a couch, eating chips all day. It's just not. And so after my birthday, I kind of wanted to just sort of pig out and, had cake, had ice cream, was making all these different ice cream type drinks, I guess sort of like boozy milkshakes in a way, and just kind of lived it up because my birthday's in the summer, right? The weather was hot. We were kind of in the backyard doing things, went to the beach a couple days. So yeah, I was pigging out, and I was having, like I said, alcohol and Pepsi and chips and cake and things like that. And you sort of give yourself a pass because it's your birthday and, you can do that. So my body has started to feel really, what's the word, icky? I really, because again, if you're not used to it, and so it's really funny when you read all of these stories online about how if you increase your water intake, this will happen to your body. If you cut out soda or pop, whatever you call it, Pepsi, Coke, if you cut that out, here's what happens on day 1. Here's what happens by day 7. Here's what happens a month later. And you kind of just shrug your shoulders and go, yeah, whatever. If you stop drinking, this is what happens by day 3. This is what's happening to your body by day 5 and 9 and, whatever. And I don't put too much merit in that because I've always said, everything in moderation, whatever, right? We all have an unhealthy habit, whether it's something that we eat or drink or do or whatever it is, right? It could be an addiction to social media and your phone, as we talked about, right? So we all have them. Some of them more detrimental to your long-term health, and some not, of course. But throughout August, I started to make these changes. So here's what I did. I have that little workout app that ends up being, if you really kind of rush through it, you do like an exercise and then it gives you a 30-minute break, or 30-second break, excuse me. If you just sort of skip through those breaks, you can finish the 15, 16 workouts in a matter of 8 or 9 minutes. And so I do 2 of those. It's kind of like a 10-minute abs or flattening your stomach kind of a thing. And I'm not overweight. I'm 155 pounds, 5'11", and 38 years old. I'm certainly not unhealthy. I'm not overweight. And then I started to take, I don't know if I can name the products, but a fiber drink. That's orange flavored, just for the hell of it. I saw a commercial and was kind of like, okay, let's try this and see how it goes. And then reached out to the company and they're like, yeah, you know what? Basically 2 weeks of doing this and you can, all right, okay, good. I got a check for doing it. and that's that. But again, something completely unrelated to this podcast. But anyway, so having the fiber, and it's apparently cleaning out your system, and you feel lighter, and you always sort of look at those commercials and you kind of laugh at the claims that are made, but I did notice a difference. And again, back to just drinking water and no booze. So I guess you'd say that I was eating clean, I think is the term. Again, not because of age or anything that happened. It was just kind of like I had a sugar overload, and I just realized, you know what, I don't like how I feel. And you hear about that, right? You'll have a can of Coke or something, and then you'll crash on the couch after. Or, you'll be sleeping, you'll be tired more. And same thing, the people who, I guess, give up meat and change their diet really have sort of extreme things. And quite honestly, yeah, I stopped having, I don't know what the term would be, like, there's sugar in almost everything you have, so I can't really say that I knowingly gave up sugar, but what I mean by that is like sugary drinks and things. And like I said, it wasn't a regular habit anyway, but I certainly noticed it in my body. And so between doing all those things, the fiber, doing the app, back to just sort of drinking water, for about a 2-week period, I was just like, wow, I feel really good. But then this is where your brain kind of kicks in. You're like, well, I sort of want to have chips now. I sort of want to eat pizza. I sort of, I'm kind of missing those things. And there was one story that I read that after you stop giving up the sugary drinks, by day 7, you kind of just don't even think about them, And then when you go and do have one, which I had a can of Pepsi, we had ordered food one night and I had a can of Pepsi with it. It does. Your body is kind of like, whoa, this is gross. You don't want, and I'm not saying that Pepsi is gross. What I mean is like the sugar that you're feeling. Like that your body just doesn't want it. And that's exactly how I feel. So it's got nothing to do with age, but you just start to make having a cleaner lifestyle, and you really do feel better. Yeah, it's remarkable. And like I said, normally I would look at those reports and online, 10 ways to blah, 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 and say, it's phooey. But it really did. And then I have this thing that cleans out your nasal passages, again, a commercial product. And I was like, let me try that out and see what it is. So it's interesting that, yeah, you get to a point in your life where you're kind of like, let me just try these sort of healthier living kinds of things. And it's fun. There's a novelty, right? Maybe it's a fad. And I actually like these ones, and I've been sticking with them. So again, not that I felt that there was any sort of need to make a change, but hey, again, with coronavirus shutdowns, lockdowns, now all that, I mean, why not just experiment with healthier things and trying something new, right? You can only improve your life, I would think, unless you pick up a bad habit, but that's beside the point. Do I have any bad habits that I picked up during Corona? I don't really. No, sleeping, yeah, I guess, yeah, the wake-up routine. I don't know if that's a bad habit so much as just a routine. Anyway, tell me what your thoughts are after that, live at jbonair.com.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. I have a dog story to tell you, and first, I always have to preface this and say, I'm not somebody who only talks about my dogs, okay? As you've heard this on the podcast, if you listen to the radio shows, you hear it as well. I have 2 dogs. They've come to be somewhat celebrities over the years, doing the radio shows with pictures and NFL teams, and send them things to wear, and they do photo shoots, and there's a line of greeting cards and all that other stuff. So that's not my point. What I'm saying is there's somebody that I know from years ago that was really the only thing that he talked about. And I can totally appreciate somebody loving animals. That's great. I love them. But that's not the only conversation point that I have. And so when you would run into him, that's just one of those things that you don't know what else to talk about. Or he's at least going to bring up dogs, at some point. And so that's a very long explanation for me to go and say I'm not just, like you have the crazy cat lady, whatever. I'm not there's a lot going on in my life besides my dogs. But here I have two observations for you. Oh, really one observation, two stories. That they can get excited at the simplest thing. If you tell them, we're going to go for a car ride, we're going to go for a walk, we're going to, do you want a treat? Things like that. Generally, they're going to go nuts for. Somehow they're just programmed to become excited for that. But there were two instances actually in the past week, and I kind of feel bad for one of the dogs, but they were just sort of coincidental. I'm laughing, but they could have actually been serious. We were out for a walk. The golden retriever is 12 years old, and he's getting up there already, right? Like he's slow. It's hard. His back legs. When he's standing up. But when we do go for a walk, I will give him the credit that we can go for about an hour and a half, and it is showing. There are times when he'll slow down and, he's kind of tailing behind, but he does really want to keep up. Don't worry, I'm not torturing him. He's gone to the vet. The vet says as long as he's walking fine and still interested in going, he's not in pain or discomfort. He's one of those dogs that he could probably go until he collapses because he just really wants to, right? Now, of course, I'm not working him that hard. I just want to say. But anyway, so what the point is that you already kind of feel sorry for him because he's aging and he's slowing down and so we had just left the house. And when I say just left the house, I mean that we were not even 2 streets down. And I'm not even talking like walking down the entire street. I'm saying like even just passing the streets. We actually just passed 2 streets. And I see this wasp, and not a bee, because I'm Canadian. I know the difference between a wasp and a bee. A wasp comes right beside his eye and stings him. And there's sort of like a yelp, and then he starts shaking his head, right? Like as though there's something on it, he's got to shake it off. Channeling Taylor Swift there. And all of a sudden then there's a little bit of blood. And so I'm just kind of like, okay, well, he's still walking. He hasn't stopped, he hasn't collapsed, he hasn't turned around and run home. He's still going. He hasn't missed a beat. And so we take a couple more steps, and then we get to probably about the 3rd street now at this point. So technically, we've really only gone, I don't even know how, we haven't gone far. We've left the house for maybe 2 minutes at the most. And then I can see now the blood is starting to come down his eye and then kind of drip down his face. There's no way in hell I'm walking through the neighborhood with a dog whose face is bleeding, okay? There's just some things I can't do. Because undoubtedly, and I have said this before as well, undoubtedly when we walk, generally every time that we go out and we pass somebody, they always compliment about the beautiful dogs, how nice they walk, they're just so great, always. So that's the last thing that I need, is somebody to stop me and then all of a sudden see the other side of my dog's face and be like, oh my god, he's got blood dripping down his face. And then how do you explain that, right? Oh, I didn't notice. Oh, thanks for letting me know. Nah, it's fairly obvious. So we turn back around. Anyway, so my point of that one is just like, oh, nothing fazed him. He's just going to carry on. It's almost like I don't want to slow us down. This is how much I want to do the walk that I'm going to keep going. And so then we get home, and generally the dogs have the same spots where they lay in, whether that's between the coffee table and the couch. So basically you have to have your feet up on the coffee table or you'll step on them, or on the couch, or there's a big, like a pet cushion kind of a thing across them. But anyway, generally where they're going to be laying and they're going to sleep. Well, here's the thing, is that the golden retriever, I don't know if he was just more comfortable in a different spot. I did not realize where he was. And so when I went and moved my feet and basically kind of caught him under the chin. So almost like I kicked him under the chin, and his teeth would have, his upper and lower teeth would have, clicked, right? Because And all of a sudden he gets up and it's almost like he's excited, like he wants to play now. And so I was like, didn't I just hurt you? Like, how are you now excited and you're ready to go when I just clocked you in the head is really what it was. And again, because I was getting up from the couch, so right, and I'm older, right? So you got to get that force, you got to get that momentum, right? You got to kind of push yourself up. And so I used one foot, and the foot that I went to sort of not get traction, I don't know what the word would be, I used to, kick him in the head accidentally. And don't write me letters, this was an accident. So anyway, what I'm saying is in the past 2 days, he had this sting where he's bleeding, and again, just and then his eye was sort of puffed up for the rest of the day, and then kicking him in the head, and he's just got the happiest disposition. He is like, oh, that didn't hurt me, like, oh, it just, and so that also kind of worries me now. This is the thing where I'm getting here. One, it's funny that these things have happened to him, and he just seems unfazed by them. And yes, absolutely, I'm not saying that it's fun if your dog is in pain. What concerns me, though, and on a serious note, is that he is getting older, and so I do wonder, though. I've heard that when dogs are sick or they're dying, they will avoid you, they will hide, they will do, and so I'm worried that with this one, I won't get that indication, right? That there will be things wrong with him, and he'll be like, well, everything's good, and that's all. The problem with animals is they can't tell you those things, right? So share your thoughts with me, and if that guy that I mentioned at the top of the segment is listening, I'm sure you have an opinion. Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. Thanks so much for tuning in. How's it going today? I'm measuring things in reference to time. Okay, so what I mean is, when I started out on the radio 15 years ago, there was this music group, this artist. That's sort of how I pinpoint time periods. I don't necessarily know the year. I don't know the year. I subtract 15, so I guess 2005 is when I started on the radio. But when I started doing celebrity entertainment reporting, it was when Drake was nominated for Juno Awards, which is sort of the low-end version of the Grammys in Canada, basically. And then I think back to the songs that were on the radio when I started doing the radio shows. Okay, so I don't know what year Faber Drive was big. I don't know what year Teddy Geiger or any of these other, but I just remember those were the songs on the radio when I started. And then I remember Tonight. Is it Hot Shell Ray? I remember hearing that song in New York City. I was in a pizzeria. I was there for Celebrity Apprentice, went to grab a bite to eat around the corner from the hotel, and the song was on over the speakers above us. And this was before the days of apps and all that stuff that you could hold out your phone and it would tell you the song. But I remembered some of the words and then came back to the hotel and found out the song. Well, little did I know that this was like the up-and-coming song. And it's interesting because where I'm going with this is so many artists have come and gone. So even just some of those that I mentioned earlier, Faber Drive, I'm just burping as that's what's going on, by the way. Had some garlic. Faber Drive was a really big group for a couple of years in Canada. Maybe they're still around, maybe they're not, right? But it's not a name that you hear very much anymore. And so same thing with this song, Tonight. Was the group a one-hit wonder? I think we only played maybe one or two of their songs on the radio. And I remember, this is where you kind of get cocky and gloaty, if that's a word, is obviously they were so big at the time and they would never just do a lowly radio show like I was hosting. But it's interesting how fast forward all these years and you kind of go and say, wow, I'm still on the radio and you're probably doing something else. You're working in a coffee shop. You're doing whatever. And again, nothing wrong with working in a coffee shop, but you go from having like a number one hit song, you're on the top of the world. Isn't that how there's a lyric in that song? And so, yeah, we got shot down every time that we asked for them. And same thing with, am I really going to start calling out celebrities and the people? I will. Okay, there was one when I first started doing celebrity interviews. She is still a Canadian singer, was very big probably 15, 20 years ago. And again, this was one of those shot in the dark kind of, I'll reach out, see if I can get an interview with her. And I remember it just being a crushing blow when the publicist replied and said no. And I was still new to it and I didn't realize that you're going to get a ton of rejection when you're reaching out for celebrity interviews and you're still this unknown person that nobody's heard of. And there was this moment of sweetness where it comes full circle, probably, I would say it was 10 years into me doing the celebrity thing, that she actually reached out to me, the artist reached out to me on Twitter, DM'd me on Twitter, asking if I wanted to interview her for her new music, her new song or new album or whatever it was that came out. I was in the bathtub. It was Easter weekend of that year. I remember this perfectly, that I got, because Twitter I was still, relatively new to still. And I just kind of thought, this is so funny. And there's a part of me, being the dick that I am, there's a part of me that wanted to go and say, you probably don't remember this, but I wanted to interview you 10 years ago or whatever it was, right? And it was like, I don't have time for the lowly people kind of a thing, was sort of the implied response that I got. But I didn't. And wouldn't you know it, this is the funny thing though, is that now, since, again, it was probably 5 years ago, we've actually become really good friends, but I still have not told her that story. God, I hope she's not listening to this right now. But it's interesting. So anyway, that's just how time flies. Over these 15 years that I've been doing, this is the podcast, but 15 years I've been on the radio. And it's even interesting just to see what celebrity relationships. We taped our country music show just before this, which is why it's kind of in my thought. Jason Aldean, right? Cheated, marriage ended. Kelly Clarkson, she just ended her relationship recently. And so you think about it, though. In that 15 years, I guess American Idol was around. Was she on? Yeah, American Idol was around back then. But what my point would have been was she would have gone from an unknown person. Let's say Idol started 14 years ago. So in that time, she's been a nobody that we've never heard of. She's never been on the radio, nothing like that. To then winning this show, to then, being a talk show host, to being married, to whatever. And so over the course of 15 years, and then it just sort of made me take this step back and look at life and go, wow, in 15 years, what's happened with me? Quite a bit, actually. I could have these exact same stories, right? I've gone to Los Angeles, red carpets, doing all these things. And so just when I look at the celebrity world and how it's so fast-paced and rapid and, these one-hit wonders or YouTube celebrities. Like now when I see these stories on TMZ about, YouTube star, I haven't heard of half of these people. And so at first I kind of felt like, I'm out of touch. Like I don't know. And now I'm sitting there going, I couldn't give two shits about half of these people. I think that's what happens, right? After you're in a career or in a position for so long, you just sort of start to go and say, I'm gonna do the job. I'm gonna phone it in some days if I want to, because I can. Send me an email, live@jbonair.com.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on The Scribble. Thank you so much for spending your Labor Day long weekend with me. I don't even know that I can say that. See, this is where I'm always in radio brain, because I always forget that I'm putting this out there, but you can listen to this on Wednesday. You can listen to this next Thursday. you can listen to this 6 months later. So I hope you had a good Labor Day. Maybe that's the way to say it. Although no, because if you're listening to this on Friday, Labor Day hasn't happened yet. Oh my, geez, I think it's time to end, everybody. Feel free to give me a shout anytime. Help me keep things together, everybody. Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. Here we go. I hope, and I can't even say that I hope you had a great day, because it could be 7 in the morning and it hasn't even started yet. All right. Anyway, well, thanks for tuning in and choosing our podcast. That's maybe the better way to say things. I'm going to end it on a positive note. Hope you had or have a great day. Have a great tomorrow. There we go. That one's easy. Have a great tomorrow. I'll talk to you next time right here on The Scribble. Bye-bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter @thescribbleshow. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.